and welcome to this edition of ONTV News. I'm Jessi Agnew. We begin today with an update on the Orion Township Library's Vote for Books campaign. While the adults of Orion Township were busy voting on our next president, their kids are voting on their favorite books. Librarians nominated 5 books in the picture book, chapter book, and middle school book categories. The ballots have been tallied and the results are in. Best Picture Book went to Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus by Mo Willems. Jeff Kinney's Diary of a Wimpy Kid won Best Chapter Book. And The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan won the Best Middle School Book. There were a total of 455 votes cast. The library plans to make the Vote for Books campaign a yearly tradition. Stop by the library at 825 Joslin Road or visit them online at orionlibrary.org to see full election results. Epic fantasies seem to be all the rage lately, with HBO's Game of Thrones claiming legions of viewers and the first installment of The Hobbit slated to hit theaters in December. One Michigan author is attempting to break the genre, and she was in Lake Orion recently to sign copies of her new book. On Saturday, November 10th, Summer Hanford of St. Clair, Michigan, was at Simply Marcella in downtown Lake Orion for a book signing event. Gift of the Aluien, Thrice is Hanford's first published novel, and she had spent years working on it until Martin Sisters Publishing in Kentucky took a chance on it.
I think for me the most exciting part was when I got the email saying that they wanted to publish my book, because I had been trying for years and I'd gotten a lot of rejection emails, a lot of rejection letters, often just a form. They just fill in your name, they don't even write anything about your book. So that moment was amazing. And then I became very, very worried. Every little thing I thought something will go wrong and they won't really publish my book, because it takes months to actually get it. So when I finally held it in my hands, I was more relieved at that point that nothing had gone wrong from them accepting it to it becoming a real book.
The novel tells the story of Orion, a page who must rally the knight he serves in time to save his kingdom from evil. The story is the first in a planned 5-part series. Hanford's ultimate goal is to see her vision appear on a movie screen someday.
I always write fantasy. I write some science fiction short stories, but fantasy is what I like to read, so fantasy is what I like to write. But it is very popular right now, especially magical realism, which is fantasy in our world. This is high fantasy, which is a little less popular, but it's still very good.
Gift of the Aluien, Thrice can be found wherever books are sold. If the first installment sells well, the publisher plans on moving forward with the rest of the books Summer Hanford is currently working on to complete the series. On November 11th, people across the country honored those who fought for our country and are currently serving in the military. Residents of Lake Orion celebrated Veterans Day with a ceremony at the Orion Veterans Memorial. ONTV's Kayla Brandon was at the event and brings us this story.
A Veterans Day ceremony was held at the Orion Veterans Memorial on Sunday, November 11th, to pay homage to those who have sacrificed their lives so we could live ours freely. The memorial off M24 was packed, filled with veterans of all ages and their loved ones who support them. Dr. Joseph Mastromatteo welcomed the crowd of patriots and told ONTV why this memorial is so important to our community.
I think it's extremely meaningful because the community is judged by who it remembers. And we certainly try to reach out to everybody in the military and make sure that they are remembered. Whether their families put their name on a brick or if they're yet to be on a brick, but certainly we want to make sure that they're not forgotten, especially the ones who have paid the ultimate price of giving their life.
Robert Boegner, who normally would deliver the invocation at the event, was invited to present the Veterans Day address. He stressed the importance of our duty as Americans to take care of our veterans.
Our wars never end. We thought they would. Each of us has a new generation that we face. We want to remember those who were, and we have to remember those tomorrow, like the young men and women you see walking around here in uniform. We have to take care of them now.
One veteran in particular, Tom Conan, was extremely grateful for the Veterans Day service. Conan comes from several generations of soldiers, and explained what the memorial site means to him.
Well, to me it means practically my life. It means an awful lot for us to get together like this and to see the civilian people that do show up and support us and all the hard work that went into serving the country and all the loss of life that we remember and all the active people today. Just in everything, it just sums up a whole life. You know, once you serve, it stays with you for a lifetime. It just means an awful lot.
Township Supervisor Joanne Van Tassel rounded out the ceremony with a closing prayer.
Lord, as we wait for that day of glorious victory, we ask that you be with all who serve in the armed forces of this country. We ask that you watch over them, that you guide them, that you surround them with your protective arms, and that you bring them home hale and hearty, so that they may enjoy the fruits of peace.
Signifying the end of the service was a 21-gun salute by the Michigan Minutemen Platoon. "40 Orion military personnel have been lost since the Civil War, and this Veterans Day ceremony was meant to remember those who served and pray for those who are currently in battle overseas for a safe return back home to Lake Orion." For ONTV News, I'm Kayla Brandon.
Thanks, Kayla. Even though the memorial is complete, donations are still being accepted for maintenance and upkeep. If you'd like to donate, you can send a contribution to 312 South Broadway, Lake Orion, Michigan, 48362, or visit OrionVeteransMemorial.com. The Lake Orion High School Thespians are gearing up for their winter performance. They are adapting local playwright and author Nina Wright's On My Boyfriend's Bicycles. Advisor Leanne Lowe was able to get Wright to come in and give the Thespians her input and advice. Wright asked to have the behind-the-scenes people present in addition to the actors so that she could stress that their role is just as important as the actors. The play tells a tale of Mia, a 40-something-year-old woman who learns to recover from her recent life troubles thanks to her much younger boyfriend and former student. The Thespians will show On My Boyfriend's Bicycles, 7:30 p.m. on November 15th, 16th, and 17th, hosting a meet and greet with Wright at 6:30 on the 15th. Throughout the year, the Orion Art Center strives to recognize the talented artists in the Orion area and showcase their art in a wide variety of media. Recently, the Art Center invited artists to submit work in two very different forms of media for a show called Portraits and Pottery. ONTV's Joe Johnson was at the opening reception and brings us the story.
On Thursday, November 8th, local artists gathered at the Orion Art Center for the opening reception of the Portraits and Pottery show. Artists were invited to submit their work in early November, and a judge examined over 70 pieces over the next several days to determine the best of the best. Now, one would think that Portraits and Pottery would be judged separately, but that wasn't the case in this particular show.
Well, they were judged together, and much of the pottery and the sculpture had an element of a portrait in it, and which made it really interesting. And the juror, Christine LeKine, she has a pottery studio, but she is also a painter. So she really was qualified to be able to look at all of it and judge it together.
Ribbons and cash prizes were handed out at the reception. Finishing in third place was Lake Orion resident Al Brown for his pottery vase called Hunter, Scavenger, Maiden, Witch. Mike Hendricks received second place honors with this incredible piece. Although it looks like it's carved from wood, it's actually a foam and mixed media carving. Chelsea Einhauser of Leonard received a first place ribbon and $150 for her enormous self-portrait created in oil.
It was the final project in my portrait class with Nancy Meter down at College for Creative Studies, and she wanted us to go big and to push ourselves with a bigger challenge. So I decided to do a self-portrait of me, and I was playing around with my camera, and I was holding up my umbrella, and I took a picture, and I thought it was really cool because it was with Renoir in the background on the umbrella. And then when I was painting the corduroy jacket, I thought of Van Gogh and came up with the name Eclectic because it had you could see different styles of artists in that painting.
And receiving Best of Show honors was Harry Villalonga of Rochester, whose watercolor painting of his daughter Christy earned him a $200 cash prize. Villalonga emigrated here from the Philippines 6 years ago and is a full-time artist.
Because of my drive of my daughter is the model, and as I was like painting her, it's like for me, the painting is already a winner for me because she was my daughter. Yeah, and I didn't expect tonight, but I'm proud of my daughter as well as my work.
I think it's a wonderful show. It's the detail and the quality of the work, and to be able to see that we have so many wonderful artists right in our own community is really wonderful. I like being able to take a single subject and seeing all of the different interpretations of that and the different mediums, whether it's watercolor or oil or acrylic or pottery.
All of the work submitted will continue to be on display at the Orion Art Center until December 12th. Hours are Wednesday through Friday from noon to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 11 to 3 p.m. From the Orion Art Center, this is Joe Johnson reporting for ONTV News.
The staff at the Orion Art Center is gearing up for its 12th annual holiday market. If you're looking for unique gifts created by local artists, then visit the market located at 424 South Lapeer Road in Lake Orion, next to Diamond Dave's. The grand opening will take place on Thursday, November 29th at 7 p.m. The market will be open on weekdays from noon to 8 p.m. and on Sundays noon to 4 p.m. through December 22nd. Visit OrionArtCenter.com for more information. We now turn our attention to local sports. The Dragons' postseason run continued on Friday, November 16th as they faced MAC Red Division champions Macomb, Dakota in Division I regional finals. Restoring an old rivalry, the two teams faced one another for the first time since 2007. Both teams entered the game with 10-1 records, but Lake Orion looked like the dominant team, jumping out to a 24-0 lead. Lake Orion repeated the formula that has worked all year long, dominating the line of scrimmage and pounding the ball on the ground with their deep rotation of running backs. Jacob Miller led the rotation with 228 yards on 27 carries and 3 touchdowns. Miller scored his first touchdown early in the second quarter. Then after the defense forced a punt, Miller would score again from 60-yard yards out, putting the Dragons up 24-0. Lake Orion would allow Dakota to get on the board and go into halftime with a 31-7 lead. Despite the large deficit, Dakota was able to fight back, scoring 28 points in the second half. Only problem, Lake Orion continued to score right along with them. Senior receiver Chaz Miller caught a pair of touchdowns from Derek DeLora. Christopher Lee and Corey Esther added scores on the ground, and Jeremy King connected on a 40-yard field goal to round out the Dragons' scoring. Final score, Dragons 51, Dakota 35. Lake Orion moves on to the state semifinals on Saturday, November 17th, where they will face off against last year's champions, Detroit Cass Tech. Stay tuned to ONTV News for highlights and a recap of the semifinal matchup. You can watch the game against Macomb, Dakota right here on ONTV, Comcast Channel 10, or UVerse Channel 99. You can also catch the game in its entirety on our YouTube channel. Head on over to ONTV.org and click on the YouTube link. Although the football season is coming to a close, viewers don't have to wait too long for more LOHS athletics. The winter season is quickly approaching, and ONTV will be on hand to cover girls basketball, boys basketball, and varsity hockey. Current volunteers who are interested in running camera, graphics, or technical directing for Dragon Sports should call the studio at 248-693-3377 or email us at ontv@orionontv.org. We are also looking for play-by-play and color commentators to call Dragon games. Speaking of Dragon basketball, the Turaminas brothers will be in studio next week to host the boys and girls varsity basketball preview shows. The brothers will sit down with LOHS coaches and players to discuss their upcoming season. Check our website's programs guide and dates for airtimes. That's it for this edition of ONTV News. On behalf of the entire crew, I'm Jessi Agnew. Thanks for watching. We leave you now with a look of upcoming events in the Orion area.